front of me yet.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, so that you guys were following along with us.
And whenever you're ready.
Okay. We'll call this, what's the date today? 14th? October 14th, Port and Commerce Advisory Board Work Session to order. So topic for today's work session is reviewing the Seward Marine Industrial Center Development Plan. We have our packet in front of us as well as a laydown from Tim, the owner of JAG, who has some short-term and long-term requests for SMIC development. I also want to mention at this time, just so that I don't forget, that next Wednesday, October 21st at noon, we have a special meeting to go over our agenda items that we were not able to accomplish last week.
And that will be held at the Seward Community Library Room.
Thank you. Yes, it will be at the Seward Community Library in the community room on the first floor.
Lauren,
Yes.
should we not also have as a laydown the letter from Steve Lair?
That is not about this. So that was as a laydown at the previous meeting. We did have that as a laydown at the previous meeting. So I'm not sure if we will, since we didn't actually have that meeting, we could I could ask the clerk to provide it as a laydown at the special meeting as well. But
Yeah, because I'm not actually aware of having received that letter. And I did finally, for some reason, find it in my email today. But I had searched for it earlier, and I didn't find it via email, and I didn't recall it being as a laydown at the last meeting, because we never actually held.
right.
So,
Yeah. So
I'm not saying it wasn't there, I'm just saying I wasn't aware of it, it wasn't in my packet, and I didn't get a copy of it that I'm aware of.
right. So it was emailed before the last meeting, and Norm actually
Yeah.
responded to it before the last meeting as well, and then it was a laydown at the meeting as well.
Yeah.
Personally, there's no action to be taken on that letter. Norm has already,
Right.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he's already taken significant steps towards getting that washdown pad. So, on to the topic at hand, the SMIC development plan review.
Before you do that real quick, just for anyone who's joining in on YouTube or on the recording, we do have a quorum for this work session. We have Chair Snyder with us and Board Member Smith, and then telephonically we have Board Members Jaffa and Board Members Paquette. Lemus, Hughes, and Lawrence have all been excused for this work session.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, Lawrence and Hughes are actually out for November as well.
Yes.
So they will be out for next week and then November. So anyone who has any conflicts for the next month, if you could let us know sooner rather than later, that would be awesome, because we are going to have difficulty reaching a quorum for the next month or so. Okay, so what we did last year is just kind of go through these item by item, and if you have something that you'd like to add, we can add it as we go. I feel like doing it methodically like that, we had some good success with making sure we hit all the high points. Once again, where this comes from, these action items are all of the line items straight out of the SMIC development plan. So it's all of the other wording taken out, and it's just the action items. I guess for starters, we have Matt Chase here, Deputy Harbor Master, representing the harbor. Do you have anything that you'd like to say before we get into this?
No, I've reviewed these before I came here, so I'm up to date, up to speed on everything on these particular sheets. So
Okay.
other than finance and the other sections there,
Right.
community development and such.
Okay, so starting at the top here, monitor and repair south breakwater anodes as needed. So this is the responsibility of JAG. When was the last time? Do you know when the last time that report was provided, or when they have that scheduled to be done?
I know that it's been done within the last 5 years.
Okay.
They had to be done before that was turned over from Seward ships to bigger and then to JAG.
Mm-hmm.
So that the anodes were inspected and brought up to snuff. So that's where that's at.
I feel like it's not really in here, but I feel like it would be worth mentioning when we actually revise the plan next year, the improvements that they have made to the ship lift, like resurfacing it, taking the wood out and putting down that really nice,
I have that pictures, we just took drone pictures of it 2 days ago with the platform up
nice.
and with the boat in the pit.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, JAG resurfaced the platform and it looks amazing, like absolutely amazing. They did really good work to it. They've been making some really good improvements over there. Okay, construct a north-south dock approximately 315 feet to increase moorage within the basin. So that was completed. One thing that I note here, and I know we talk about utilities a little bit later on, but one of the things that was in Tim's letter was about power to the north dock. Do you know if there are plans to put power there? I know there was power kind of right around the corner that was being used by that drill
Fisherman's
rig.
Float has got power to it. It's got 4 meter base, 2 meter bases with outlets on each side. So we have 400 amp meter bases down there that are being fed with the 408, I believe. I'm not the electrician, but I know those have got power. As far as plans for power going to the north dock, there is a transformer over there. It can be probably adapted to upgrade to something in the future. According to what happened this weekend with all these large vessels coming in there, probably be prudent.
Yeah.
But I know we have power to that area. It's just a matter of enhancing it out.
Right. Again, for those of you who haven't been out there, there was a big Coast Guard ship. The Navy ship is in town, and the Tustamina were all inside that area. It was really great to see so many big ships and seeing. There were also fishing vessels in there. Oh, Matt has a really nice picture.
Yeah, and his picture of
They got some drone photos of SMIC yesterday. Oh, that looks amazing. Wish you could put that up in front of the camera so everyone at home could see. Okay. Surface the north dock in staging areas with concrete, asphalt, crushed rock, or rotomill, including the installation of drainage pipes. So the last note we have is this was partially completed in 18, paving needs to be completed. Would you say this is still in progress? So that's talking about the laydown area. Are there plans to actually pave the laydown area next to the north dock?
Not that I know of right now. We're just in the point of it's level. It's ready for upland storage. I don't really think there's any future plans to have that.
And what I'm trying to remember is if last year when we were doing this, if the area right adjacent to it wasn't paved yet, was that done within the last year?
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's paved.
so we can say that the paving was completed in 2019?
The paving, yeah, 219 for sure, yeah.
Okay. So we can just strike that, what's in there and say paving completed. In 2019. All right. Determine if the barge ramp is necessary. We already have a good note in here. It was deemed necessary and repaired in 2018, so that means the next line item we have stricken from the plan. Maintain the fisheries dock per lease agreement. Here, anyone who has any comments, please feel free to pipe up at any time, by the way. I know that this map is relevant because the fisheries lease is getting smaller to accommodate the Coast Guard. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's certain parcel of their property is being relocated in order to make room for the FRC area for their maintenance and housing.
So, I guess my question here is, when it says the fisheries dock, does that mean the dock face that's outside of the ship lift? Or is that the dock that Polar actually uses? What is actually considered the fisheries dock? Because I guess I'm thinking about the fisheries lease, but what, is that dock actually owned by the city and leased by Polar?
Yes,
Okay,
they're responsible for the upgrades to it.
okay. Gotcha. So, the area where Polar Seafoods currently is, their building is going to remain.
Yes,
But right now, to the north of where their building is, they have some additional land where they have a lot of things stored. Their lease is going to get smaller, so they will still be there. They will still be able to conduct operations in that same area, but adjacent to them is where the Coast Guard is going to be.
to the northeast of them.
To the northeast of them. Yep, exactly. So they will lose some of their laydown area, but they will still be out there adjacent to the Coast Guard. So it will go it will go ship lift, travel lift pit, Polar, Coast Guard, Fisherman's Float,
Fisherman's Float.
North
Right.
Dock.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think this changes though, since they're still going to have that dock. So they will still maintain that dock face per their lease agreement.
Chair Snyder,
Yeah, Board Member Jaffa.
I am just curious on how the negotiation with the tenant is going. Are they using a space that they weren't necessarily entitled to, and they're just being asked to vacate it, or are they actually being allowed to renegotiate?
No, go ahead, please.
The lease agreement for Polar Seafoods is up this year, I believe.
June, yeah.
And they renegotiated the lot swap next to Polar Seafood, northeast of Polar Seafood, so the Coast Guard could get in there. And the manager and the owner of the property were there just last week talking to Norm. Very cordial meeting. Everybody is happy to get what they're getting, and it's no negative things at all about that. Everybody's on a positive, and they're happy.
Okay, my reason for that, Matt, my question was that they are one of our earliest clients and tenants out there, and certainly if they had an objection, they should bring it forward. And I would agree, if they haven't brought it forward, then they can see the benefit of the renegotiation. I'm actually looking at a satellite picture, which is very helpful, of the facility, and that whole area there between where the road turns, that's now got a bunch of trailers and whatnot, you're talking about for the Coast Guard area?
Oh yeah, on the north side of that elbow.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. And will it go clear to all the way along that bulkhead?
It'll go, the property that Polar has now, all that storage area goes from the road northeast to the light pole in the middle of the yard there. The big security post there, and that's pretty much the property line right there for their northern part of that lot. What the Coast Guard is trying to get that whole lot, and I think they have it. Polar Seafoods is going to have their storage area just north of that light pole, and from the light pole out to the existing road is going to be the new Polar Seafoods light. Be the Polar Seafoods property there for the storage and
Good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Matt. Repair or replace Synchro lift dock ladders, bumpering system, and corrosion control of the pipe piling in the splash zone by application of a protective coating. This is again the responsibility of the shiplift lessee. Ladders were last replaced in 2013, and unknown date of last protective coating application. Matt, do you guys have like a yearly inspection or like a yearly sit down with them to just talk about things like this, or is there a scheduled time to?
They have a scheduled maintenance plan every summer to maintain 7 of their winches
Okay.
up there, and it's a rotation because they have 28 winches. So they just do 7 winches, and Lloyd's of London comes up here and inspects those winches and other associated structural inspections.
Gotcha. And that kind of brings us into the next one too. Monitor the maintenance of the ship lift dock per the M&O agreement for the useful life of the facility. And so you received those inspection reports, and if there was anything that was
Yes, sir.
outside of the...
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Expand existing water and electrical systems in the boat storage area. I know that this was something we had talked about last year. The leftover grant funding from all of the SMIC. Oh, hold on, I'm reading this whole thing. So it said possible funding from leftover grant funding, no leftover grant money, water is scheduled for 2020. Okay, so was there any water expansion done this year? In this great year of 2020?
No, there wasn't any infrastructure improvement as far as electrical or water. However, we did take a tour recently within the past couple weeks with the city electric engineers and foremen and discuss upgrades to our existing power for more of the boats, more meter bases for more boats, and of course along with that, if we're going to be in the ground, we might as well throw in some more water.
Yep.
So the plans are definitely in place. It might not be 2020, it just depends on how we get funded, and we've gotten some recent grants coming through, so we'll see what happens.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I know that, I think that's a great idea for that expansion, especially because I think now looking at 2020 and future, going into the importance of people washing their hands and having good restroom facilities that are provided out there. But I think when we go back to that, and we always talk with Doug, he always mentions the lagoon there, and how that it's just a 1-chamber lagoon, like it would need to be upgraded in the future, and I don't know if that could be included in that to look, because when looking at overlay on SMIC, talking about like if we were putting in lodging out there, or if there were stores or other things, like it may be including that as part of a grant opportunity that may happen because of COVID,
Right.
or in the future, looking to upgrade that with the whole water and electric and utilities would only probably make that better and get more ratepayers or more money driven from, increasing leases there because of better facilities. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that could be included in that part, and knowing that planning and zoning is going back to do that overlay, and the possibilities of those things being out there, or even like man camps or those things, so that the water can be hosted out there and in a responsible way.
Right, absolutely. And along the line of man camps, I mean, Sockeye Point is in the process of getting their permitting together to build the man camp out there adjacent to SMIC. So all of their wastewater would be going into that lagoon as well. And I think that's a 40-person man camp that they're proposing. So definitely, I'm just trying to remember if there is another section in here that talks about infrastructure. I feel like we address it at some point later in the plan as well. But I'd like to make a note to come back. I just don't know where the best place to make those notes would be. There's stuff talking about updating the water loop for the fire system, public works. Just seeing if there are any other public works ones, or if we should maybe add some language, because I agree, things are happening out there, things are only getting bigger. This yearly review is just a review. I'm really happy that next year we have the chance to revise this plan and to add a lot more language to it. But I'm thinking that maybe here, because I'm not seeing another good place to do it. Since all of this red language here is kind of negated because there didn't end up being any grant money and none of the work was completed in 2020, that we should put in a note. Does anyone have any ideas for what that should say?
It's on page 6. It says supporting updated Seward City Code to facilitate utility extension development.
I am not seeing it on page 6.
I maybe have a different one because I'm on the,
Oh, I see. It might be our labeled page 5.
5, yes.
Okay.
5 for you, 6.
Support updating Seward City Code to facilitate utility extension development. Yeah, you're right. That might be a better place to put that.
Page 5 too has in capital planning extension of electrical, sewer, and water. So
5.
Where, Sheriff Snyder, where did you see that support?
Yeah, so it is the 4th line item down on page 5. The actual, the page number 5. The page numbers are kind of off to the left-hand side and sideways. You can read them if it were vertical. So the 4th item down says support updating Seward City Code to facilitate utility extension development. And then the one right above that, yeah, as Board Member Smith pointed out, says include in city capital planning the extension of electrical, sewer, and water throughout the industrial area. So I think that's a great place to put those specific notes in. So going back to where we are, about specifically expanding them within the boat storage area. So this is not talking about larger infrastructure, but more just more water, more places for people utilizing the boatyard to get water. Sorry, coming back to you again, Matt. Are there plans on paper for there to be a few more water drops around the
Yes.
laydown area?
Yes.
There are. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just
I can
funding.
remember, I think they're gonna improve it by, there's actually 2 spigot heads in the yard now that actually have 4 spigots on each one. Plan on moving a couple more of those eastward, into the valley, eastward, just doubling what we have now.
Okay. And we had that note from last year that it was scheduled for 2020. Do you know if it was budgeted for?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Okay. So how about we just say plans exist for water expansion within the yard? Water expansion within the city storage yard, because that's what we're talking about here. City storage yard. So would it be accurate to say that funding needs to be identified to make that happen? Or do you think that would fall in your maintenance budget, or?
I would say that, funding is being developed.
Okay.
I wouldn't know how.
Okay. Well, let's just leave it at the plans exist. We are going to talk about infrastructure growth at a work session later, so we can tackle this at that time too. Again, these notes are just our placeholder so that we can remember where we're at, so that we remember to ask good questions next year and make sure we're making progress. Okay.
I'd just like to add that COVID did have a lot to do with
Oh, absolutely.
the funding management of this, so.
Yeah. No, 100%. 2020 was, no one's being having their feet held to the fire for things that didn't happen in 2020. Yeah. Encourage the development of full-service workstations for major maintenance construction projects on vessels in order to limit the degree of maintenance allowed in the storage area. This was something that was also mentioned by Tim that I'd like to, he also mentioned sewage risers for the north dock, since I guess we can hit that when we hit infrastructure expansion, because that's not within the storage area. Small vessel blast building in SMIC adjacent to the washdown pad to allow vessels to either blast their own or subcontract someone to blast the small vessels in a controlled environment, large enough that the travel lift can drop them off inside the building. So I do think this is a great idea. I don't think that it's something the city is probably going to want ownership of.
Yeah, it's a touchy situation because I wouldn't know how to expound on that, but I know one thing for sure: if the city does do something like that, then takes responsibility of it, then they will have to be responsibility for all of the media that had to be disposed of, and right now our yard doesn't have any room on top of that to
Right.
put a structure of that size.
Yeah. Yeah, because that would take up a big footprint. I guess my feelings on this are that it's a great idea. It's something that Hamilton Marine was really far down the road, or Hamilton Construction was really far down the road with, I mean, the building is on site, it just hasn't been built. I feel that that private industry will rise to the occasion for building that building. I mean, it's here in Seward. Someone just needs to buy it from Hamilton.
Snyder,
Yeah, Mr. Jaffa.
I understand, I believe I understand what Tim's comments are addressed to, and I also remember the history that the whole facility has had with blasting and media and public reaction to that. We certainly want to be ahead of this problem, and it will be a growing problem with success. As he points out, it's not only something in the immediate eye, but in the future, it's going to be important that we have some kind of a facility like this. Now, whether it's public or private, you mentioned it might not be the city's area, or Matt did, I think also, may not be the city's area, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't think about possibly dedicating or holding back a site for something like that. So
Right.
it's I think a longer term goal than what Tim might be thinking about, but it's certainly not something we should ignore.
No.
In today's climate, it's going to become more and more important that segregated facilities or for the hazardous materials or environmental problems be developed.
Yeah, and he also brings up good points that by having indoor facilities, it reduces cycle times and makes it so more vessels will come here to get their coatings done if they can get them done in the middle of winter. Because currently, containment measures are so expensive. I would say that they're as expensive as it would be to rent a building of that size.
Chair Snyder, and Tim uses a term, ROI, return on investment, that is really critical thinking. It's not necessarily something that we all think about, but that long-term benefit of turnaround time, making it more attractive, those do reduce the amortization times and should be kept in view of developing where the cost is. But I think for the city and for the harbor to make sure that we don't pigeonhole ourselves and not have some location, convenient location for that type, just like the wash pad is conveniently located, this facility needs to be conveniently located as well.
Yeah, I definitely think it's something that that we should look at. So here's what I'm thinking. For the notes here, so the washdown building is complete, correct? I mean, maybe
Oh,
you
there's
guys,
some plumbing issues inside, but yes, the building is complete. We just have to get a manifold hooked up in there.
But it's
with
working.
The person who's permitted and insured to do it.
Gotcha. Does that mean that that at this point it's still not operational for the winter?
It's still not operational for the winter.
Okay,
We look forward to getting it plumbed. It's just a matter of getting somebody there. You know, it could be up in a week. I'm not really sure.
I
You know,
gotcha.
There's some certain little things in there that are slowing the process down.
okay. So, what should we say here? Should we just leave the wording in here that the heated washdown building is almost complete?
Yeah. Well, one thing's for sure is that COVID affected that also.
Right,
Because the manpower that we have at the harbor and the way that that yard had gotten crazy over there, and then with boat lifts on this side, we haven't really had any time to work on anything, you know, to get dedicated to that certain project right now. But now that spring is, or now that fall's here and things will slow down, it's enclosed, it's heated, I imagine we'll probably have it pretty close, you know, we'll have it done in a short amount of time.
okay. So, heated washdown building is almost complete, awaiting final plumbing connections?
Let's see. We are adding the heated system out of budget. So right now there's not much left.
There's no, okay, I gotcha. Okay. So as far as a blast building and a paint building, should we put some language in here just to remind us of this when we're reviewing the plan in more depth next year? Something like, land should be set aside, or we should consider setting land aside for a private entity to construct blasting and painting
Yes,
buildings.
I would say that plans could be made in the future to dedicate either privately or publicly.
Okay. So just to keep it on the radar, we should say the harbor should consider setting aside land for a blast and paint booth. And those could be separate. I mean, I can think of some good locations for those that already are, like where Hamilton currently has their lease. That'd be a great location for it. It's going to be a great location for it before. But maybe there's some way to incentivize that, or to just make sure that the preference is being given to people that are wanting to put that kind of big infrastructure into.
Yeah, and we just have to find the funding. It's all about the money.
Right. No, and again, I'm not sure that the city owning the buildings is the best course of action
Well,
either.
it's far in the future. I mean, at least if we're putting that plan out there now, at least we kick it around, and if somebody is willing to jump on that, that'd be great.
If we add language to the plan next year that includes this, then this plan can be used as justification to get grant money to maybe build something. Maybe it can be like the ship lift where the city owns it, but private contractors use it and do the work or lease it, or who knows. Does anyone have anything else to add? I think that was a really good segment there.
Well, at least see Mr. Jagelski got the ball rolling on that.
Yeah, no, I think it was, I'm really happy that he pointed he pointed that out. All right. Provide additional restrooms as needed. So the portable toilets work great. I have rarely had to wait for the restroom out at SMIC, but a permanent structure would also be excellent. Consider clause in long-term leases that includes fee for restroom maintenance. I still think that that's a really good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, it's kind of out of reach for leaseholders out there to put in their own facilities because it is so incredibly expensive to put in our own utilities. I don't think it's out of reach for it to be just built into the lease fee, that some of that goes towards the restroom maintenance. We appreciate it being there.
And we'll monitor it, and if we need more porta potties, we'll add to it. And it's even been kicked around at something, more in the future.
Has there been strain on the systems that you already have in place in the spring and the fall to this point?
It gets beat up, but we try to keep up with it. It's just it's part of the charm of the boatyard growing so great.
Right.
There's the pros and the cons, and
Yeah.
it's a small price to pay.
Okay. Provide engineer-designed drainage on the uplands. So, I don't think funding has been identified for that. So I think we can leave that as is. Fill and grade the storage area to the correct elevation for the continued improvement of drainage. I know you guys have been working hard on that this fall.
I do have an update on that, though. We do have access to better coverage, better rock
Oh, okay.
that we'll try to add to in, when we have time, in increments.
To smaller stuff smaller than pit run. Is that the idea? So that
What we have is 1.5 inch minus. We have access to that, and it's from the pit, so it's still a little sharp. But it's manageable. It's good. It's easy to work, and it compacts good. It's the same gravel that's covering those roads in the back now.
Okay, nice.
So we've just come across that a couple weeks ago. So we're going to be integrating that into the yard and the roads and trying to upgrade that, and that will be easier to work and easier to manage for drainage. So
Right.
there's two upsides to that: easier to work on, easier to work with, and improved drainage.
Awesome. I'd say that really the only remaining problem area is in the area between Jag to the east.
Olga.
Between Olga and Jag. That is the problem area. All right, turning the page to page 3, starting at the top. Add to Article 18 of all leases under maintenance, do not push snow into ditches. That is complete. Seek a rate of return from the use of public facilities, land assets, and equipment that will adequately cover deferred maintenance and replacement costs. I know that leases just went up, which I think that there's actually language about that later. Yeah, about increasing the annual rent payment according to CPI, and then every 5 years adjusting it. Does the board have any thoughts on this? On seeking a rate of return from the public facilities? Looking at the tariff, are there things that you would like to see changed, where you think the harbor could be?
Chair Snyder, I think this rate, the rate structure itself is such a complicated topic. I'm not sure that this would be the work session to to get deep into that. We certainly should have the utility, electrical utility to advise us on that, and so far, well, you're one of them. I think most of the tenants over there have agreed that the rates are tolerable, although high. I think that that's a deeper topic that I would hope we could address while the interim manager, Borgeson, is aboard.
Yeah, and this specifically is talking about the, yeah, so it would be both utilities, public facilities, land assets, and equipment. I guess just a general question to Deputy Harbor Master Chase here is, do you feel that you have enough in your budget for maintenance? Do you feel that things are getting deferred because there's not enough in the budget? Do you feel that things are being able to, I mean, the travel lifts are in tip-top shape. When you if you go to other communities and you look at their travel lifts, come back and be really impressed with Seward's travel lifts. Our harbor does an amazing job of maintaining them. But generally, do you feel that maintaining the bathrooms, maintaining that building there, are the lease fees covering what you guys need to keep things up?
It's, we've been working, we never really have made a profit in that yard.
Okay.
And until recently, you know, with the grants that we have had to enhance it, we've enhanced it according to what the grants would let us do. The maintenance that we have now is, let's just say, in the past 15 years, that boatyard has come to life fivefold, whatever. It's just a lot of numbers. The North Dock's come to life, and Basin has come to life. So it's keeping us on maintenance on several different areas other than the yard. Yes, it's barely covering the budget of what we've got right now.
I think the upland storage rates need to increase, personally.
I have to agree with you there. There's some boats that have been there too long just because there's...
It's too cheap.
And so, yeah. But I think things are looking up and we'll get things moving. But we want to keep them coming. Want those boats to keep coming.
Yeah, Board Member Paquette.
So that makes me wonder if we might, and again, not in this work session, but if we do start looking more closely at rates over there, maybe there could be some kind of a sliding scale rate so that derelict boats or boats that are not really in use and are taking up space from productive business use, maybe there's a sliding scale. So, you know, the first year it's this, and then the next year it's a little higher, and the third year it's a little higher, so that you're compensating for the fact that they're just sitting there taking up space, not doing anything.
You're exactly right, and currently the rate doubles after 1 year. I've wondered if perhaps it should triple after 3 years as extra incentive.
Well, I mean,
but
you made the remark it was too cheap, so...
yeah, no, and I think it's too cheap on its face. I think that the initial rate should go up, which I might get hate mail for this, but we are the cheapest harbor by far. It's cheaper than any private business can afford to do. My rates are higher. I know that Raybo's rates were higher. Everyone else who charges storage charges much more than the city because you can't make a profit with charging what the city charges. Yeah,
maybe that's something we could talk about when we work on the tariff with PACAB.
I think so. I think I just want to add a note in here that just says continue to evaluate, in addition to lease rates, just add on that and storage fees. I think it needs to be addressed. Tony?
Yeah, and I think as a municipality, I'm not sure we want to really be in the business of making money, but we definitely want to be in the business of covering our expenses and making enough to put away deferred maintenance costs for large project. And I think that that's reasonable. That's a reasonable way to approach government.
Right. And you look at things like the extra bathroom and shower facilities that have been on this plan for, I believe, 10 years, and there just hasn't been the money to do it, and there never will be if there's not, if the harbor's not able to make that money in some way. Councilmember Bacon.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say the clerk has the recodification process that is occurring as we speak. In there, the vendor had specified that there are different fees within the city, and I know through talking with Tyler, he said they're looking at campground fees. I'm wondering if, you know, with the recodification and everyone and other departments looking at fees, that maybe either a work session or something, just discussing those fees, because it looks like everybody's on the move to raising fees at this point. So I would definitely bring that to council.
Yeah.
To talk about maybe a work session, or our joint work session should be coming up for the fall. We'll look at that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when the tariff gets submitted, because it actually gets with the CPI increase, the tariff gets adopted every year in January. Is that correct?
I believe so.
So I know we can't take any action and actually plan this here, but maybe at our next meeting, we should plan to set a work session topic to just discuss the tariff. I know that Norm has some thoughts on this too, and he already had some ideas for the direction he wants things to move in.
It's on the PACAB agenda to work on the tariff items.
It is. It's on the December agenda? Okay. I didn't know if we had it in there as a placeholder. Perfect. Well, then we will do that when that comes up. So next is examine the electric rate method of calculating charges to users and examine the credit card rate method of calculating charges to users. I still don't completely understand what this means. This is language, again, straight out of the plan, but I don't know how to examine it because I don't know what either of those things are. So that's something that we need to still take up with finance.
So I don't know if it was specifically that or not, and I don't know if Matt can correct me if I'm wrong, but no, I think at that a while ago in a PACAB meeting, Norm had mentioned about the fees for credit cards. So like when we were processing a payment, like we're not getting that full payment. We're getting that payment minus the credit card processing fees.
Right.
And I'm not sure if maybe having us one, because I feel like there's utility billing that handles fees on their own, and then Parks and Recs handles their fees on their own, and then the harbor handles their fees on their own. And maybe that's something that we need to look at again, to bring that into one central area to realize the cost savings if payments can be done from one central area or one central processing,
right,
rather than payments in different departments or however they're processing payments for, you know, leases or campgrounds or whatever. So
because by bulking things together, we'd get better rates as a city
I would
on
hope so.
credit card fees.
But I would say too that I don't know that for sure. That would probably have to be done with like our banker or whoever processes the credit card payments through the different credit card payment processing that we use in the city.
Right. Yeah, and
Corey's working on a rate study.
for the electric
Yeah.
rate study, right? And I guess when I just see these two things together, they look like either or things. Like examine the electric rate method and the credit card rate method, but I guess it does make sense. So I just don't know what that means. What is electric rate
So,
method?
yeah, I may ask, from the harbor point of view, the boat harbor, you're purchasing with like one bill to the utility and then distributing that to the users, correct? Whereas SMIC, we have individual meters.
All those meters feed into one meter base that the harbor pays for.
At SMIC?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the same issue as the boat harbor then?
Yes.
So you're basically trying to get to net zero with
Yes.
the bill?
They
Okay.
sell us the power, we distribute it, and there's a little bit of,
Would there be any reason at SMIC, since that'd be higher, that in theory they'd use a lot more electricity than you would be using at the boat harbor, to have that just direct as a utility customer? Or is that just not how that's designed?
There's a pretty good customer charge that gets charged both at the harbor and at SMIC to cover some of the
Correct.
infrastructure stuff, as well as losses that the city incurs from the power.
Because
If I'm
it-
understanding you correctly, it's not just a kilowatt hour
Right.
fee. It's like set in the tariff that there's a customer charge and
well,
then there's a set
there's a
rate.
customer charge every month of, a certain amount for the harbor and a certain amount for SMIC. I can't remember them right now, so I'm not gonna quote them. But it's also the fact that the harbor maintains their electrical, once it comes to us, it stops we are the ones who maintain it. We pay for the maintenance. We have to get insured and permitted people to work on the complicated electrical stuff. And same with SMIC. We have to maintain everything past that meter base. So that's part of the customer charge in order for us. And of course, there's a lot involved in electrical charges and stuff. And something like putting all new LED lights over there in those light towers, part of the stuff. And as far as the credit cards go, council talked about a few for using credit cards, and it was voted down a couple of years ago.
I personally find it tacky when people put credit card fees on things because that's how most people are paying these days. I guess that doesn't incentivize people to pay via check, but I never appreciate it when businesses do that. I feel if anything, the rates should be made in a way that assumes that most people will pay via credit card and that we should be able to absorb that. But rather than having an additional fee to people. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is Norman. I'm on the EVOS meeting too, so I'm trying to.
Hi, Norm.
Trying to help out here, so, yeah, any questions I can to help out, so.
Yeah, we were just talking about credit card charges and the electric rates. I just think when we actually revise this plan next year, we should probably just evaluate that language so that it's useful, because every time we review it, we're like, what does that mean? So if we think that we should, oh, go ahead.
So years ago, they looked at charging the fee to the customers, passing the fee on to the customers, and then it was brought before council, and council had voted it down. This was a couple, 2-3 years ago, because like electric pays a lot in fees, and so does the harbor.
Right.
So, and it was discussed back, and it was brought to council, and it was voted down, so maybe do it again, I don't know.
I gotcha. Do you know what this line means then? Examine electric rate method of calculating charges to users?
So I think what it was is we like the harbor pays the same rate as their houses and stuff like that. I think they were trying to do a different system, but it's all about the rate study. So I think
Okay.
the rate study done, I think we might have a better idea what's going on.
Okay. All right. So meaning that maybe we should be charging more for the power that is being used by users at SMIC? I mean, is that what you're saying, that we should be evaluating how much we're charging for the electric usage out there?
So SMIC is more than in town in the harbor. That's because SMIC is at a commercial. We get charged a commercial rate
Right.
from the electric utility. So we have to charge you the industrial rate for the people using the boatyard there.
Right.
And that's all in the tariff. That's all in the tariff.
Yeah. No, I think all we're trying to understand is just what this means. When we're supposed to examine the electric rate method of calculating charges to users, what is it? Are we just evaluating what the rates are? 'Cause it says method, and that's
the rate
weird.
The rate is in the tariff. What we do, we just average out because the two gets charged, it differs every month. So we just stay at a certain rate. Some months we take a lot.
Right.
Some months we don't, but most of the time we take a loss at it because of the fuel surcharge.
Okay, so maybe that's just what that means, like the method of having, like, that we're supposed to be examining the method that we're using, which is having the customer charge and then
Yeah,
kind of
it's
a
just-
flat fee for. Okay,
Because we'd have to readjust our rates every month, because the rate changes every month.
Right.
That's what we're just trying to maintain. I think that's where it's at. We're just trying to maintain something that balances out with the season.
okay. All right, I think I understand this better now. So I just think we should probably change the language to make that a little bit more. So we should be examining the method of calculating electric charges for users.
Correct.
That's what it's not an electric rate method, it's the method that we're using to calculate the electric charges. And then examining the method for calculating credit card charges to users, which council already knocked down the idea of charging credit card fees.
Is that something we can remove from this?
That's what I'm thinking, is
I would
that,
recommend we remove it.
yeah.
That just goes into all the other charges, the lease charges.
Yeah, so I think that we can say that, like, this was brought before council and rejected. Rejected. And I think that on the previous one about the electric rate method, I think the Harbor does a great job of getting their a good return on the electric fee by having, I think their method is great, by having a customer charge to cover the infrastructure and then a set fee per kilowatt hour so that it doesn't fluctuate throughout the year, so it can actually be set in the tariff. I think that's the best way so that people can anticipate what their charges are going to be and it's consistent throughout the year. So if we've examined it, I would say that the current method of calculating electric charges is sufficient or
Functional.
is functional, yeah. Method.
So I guess one last question, not to belabor it too much. Mr. Regis, you mentioned that some months you take a loss and some months where we come out ahead on that. At what point do we make sure that we covered our city costs on the electric rate? Is that like every 6 months,
No.
every quarter?
They come up with a percentage of what it balances out from the previous year, and I think that's why we go with it.
Okay.
It's hard to tell. I mean, if natural gas rates go way up, then, I imagine that it's gonna go way up. But we just try to go with the previous year was, and then stay with the CPI, and it seems to be working okay.
Okay. So basically a yearly balance.
Which I think is a line item in the budget, so
Okay.
if you can pull that out of what's being paid to the harbor and what's being collected in electric fees.
Okay.
So the same thing with the electric rates, we go with the CPI,
Mm-hmm.
and we just kind of balance out what the charges are for the year, and then just go with what we have to abide by the electric tariff also.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, well, we made some progress there. Continue to
I'm
review.
sorry, I tried to call in, I was going to call in earlier, but I've been waiting to talk on this for the EVOs for the washdown pad, so.
No, that's super exciting. Can't wait to hear more about that too. Continue to review the upland boatwork policy and best management practices to ensure compliance with Clean Water Act and local, state, and federal laws and regulations where they apply. The last note we have in here says needs to be reviewed in 2019. Has the upland boatwork policy and best management practices been reviewed and updated?
Well, we did that last year, but yeah, Matt can tell you that we just redid our let Matt talk on that.
Mr. Chase?
Well, yeah, we review them every year and we upgrade them, to environmental standards.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really great this year. Go ahead, Norman.
Well, I was just going to say, I was going to tell you that we just updid our SWIP again, we just renewed it.
Yeah, we just renewed that, and that has to be renewed every 5 years. And of course, because of some great vendors we have over there, the yard's a lot cleaner this year and better managed. With the pavement, the washdown pad, and the new pavement over on the north dock, we're getting a lot more business. So, yeah, every year there's a new thing that we have to maintain and manage. Clean water was brought up to like on Tim's letter from JAG as far as getting a sewer line over to the north dock. It was evident how much business that would bring to us. Fortunately, well, the sewer line doesn't go down the road that far to take a left into our yard. So we have to increase that structure and then to go into the yard. Of course, we could do that without disrupting the pavement too much.
Okay.
But that's, we still have places to go and better things to do. And with the business that we've had between JAG and our boatyard and the north dock, I see that stuff coming down the road here in the future. And we'll just peck away at it every year.
Awesome.
If that's a good answer for you guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was specifically just talking about the policies and practices, but I appreciate we will get into infrastructure more here in a little bit. I think that a good note here would just be that it's reviewed and updated yearly.
Yeah.
So that you guys are just making sure that what people are signing is that they're signing all their rights away when they come into the yard. Make sure
we try to make sure everything's covered.
Yeah. All right. Ensure that the facility and uses are consistent with the requirements of the Maritime Security Act of 2002, 33 CFR 104, 105, and maintain the facility use plan. So we have a note here to strike facility use plan and replace with facility security plan. $250,000 for security infrastructure was included in the 2019 and 2020 city legislative priorities. A question here is the Coast Guard, I know that they'll do security around their area, but would they have any interest or would they be able to help with getting funding for that greater area? So there's kind of two levels of security in that SMIC area? Do we see any
As far around the
possibilities there?
boatyard or just around the facility that they're building?
Just around the whole boatyard, because I know they'll do whatever they need to around their facility, but I thought that they may be able to write a letter of support to get some funding to put the security in around the entire boatyard facility. I'm sure that they would appreciate having it 50 miles an hour through the boatyard.
Yeah, it says, well, and you can see with the Navy coming in, the security that the JAG had to put up barbed wire around their fences and 30 cameras for security when
Wow.
the JAG came in, that one Navy boat come in for that time. The fortunate thing about our facility is that when JAG came in early, when the Sioux came in a week early, they were all concerned because they had an old satellite picture of the north dock. There wasn't any fence there, there wasn't anything there, and they're all concerned, can we get temporary fencing, can we get this here, get that there? And they sent back pictures of our fence and the secured facility. So that was a good thing about getting security, what it brings in. Now the Navy says that we have such a great secured area, they would like to come back for more.
Awesome.
So I don't know as far as what they're willing to spend their money on is outside their perimeters is outside mine.
Right. Norm, have you seen any opportunities for funding for this security infrastructure? Or I know there's a lot of other priorities right now, and you've got a lot of irons in the fire.
You know, we have a lot of irons in the fire right now, but nothing is just our priorities to hopefully sometime get the funding. We ran out of the other funding when we did the paving and the fencing of the north dock, which was needed. We just got to come up with the funding, and we raise rates, that'll help, but it's not it'll take a while.
Right. Yeah. That would definitely make a really big difference. For those of you that aren't daily users of SMIC in the summertime, especially when there's a lot of tourism traffic. There are people driving really, really fast right through the middle of the boatyard where there's a lot of people. They're not great roads. It's not a safe place for people to be going through and walking through. It would be really nice to have a perimeter around the industrial area. Maintain an accurate map through survey and plat amendments for all current and future leases. That is, I believe that is all updated, minus I guess there's some new leases. There's been some changeover. But I know that you guys constantly work on keeping that up to date.
Madam Chair, can you read that again? That again?
Yeah, maintain an accurate map through survey and plat amendments for all current and future leases.
Yeah, so that's right when you drive in there. It should be current minus that one that just went away. We don't need to, we're going to be working on it, hopefully have it at least by next summer. Yeah, we have been keeping up with that sign. It's right there by the electric power plant there.
Perfect. Adjust the annual rental payments every 5 years. The adjusted annual rental payment shall be appraised fair market rental value of the leased land at the highest and best use of the leased land. And this was done this year. Yay!
Yeah, every 5 years and then the CPI in each year afterwards, so.
So I see a note in here, Norm, from when we talked about this before, saying Harbor looking at historical increases for the 2020-2021 budget. Oh, I see. So because the adjustment was due in 2020, when you budgeted for 2020-2021, you just made your best guess of what the lease revenue would be based on historical increases. To those appraisals? I gotcha. So when they do the mid-cycle budget, will you have those numbers, will you have more accurate numbers for those?
Well, it would just come under revenue, but
Right.
we could look at that.
I was just curious how close your guess was to what the actual increases ended up being for across the...
So we know what the CPI is going to be, and we know what we collect, and we just added that what the CPI is to the total we collected.
Okay.
And that's where we come up with that budget amount.
I gotcha. But so you should actually be higher than that because the appraisal increase was greater than CPI.
Correct, but
Yeah.
some of them stayed the same, and some of them did not go up.
Oh, I see.
I mean, yeah, some stayed the same, but none, of course, never go down. So.
Yeah. No, of course not, because things are always being improved over there. So we should just change this to say that the last annual, the last review was in 2020, or the last appraisal. How about last appraisal was in 2020? So 5 more years. Look for that to come up. And then we can just strike everything else from that block. And then we've already talked about CPI. Increase the annual rental payment each year in an amount that reflects the increase, if any, in the cost of living for the previous year as stated in the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. That occurs in July per the state calendar year. All right. Review table 15.10.225 to ensure the uses listed are compatible with the overall intent of the SMIC area. So when we redo this, we need to strike, it's actually table 15.10.226. And we didn't end up having a joint work session with P&Z. And I know I talked to Jackie. I don't know if we're going to fit it in this year. It will probably be the beginning of next year that we talk about that overlay again. So let's just say work session with planning and zoning and PACAB planned, because it's not actually scheduled, for January 2021. Because we are still looking at all of that. Maintain access from Nash Road to the mouth of Spring Creek and provide a camping area and include signage of the access route. So the camping area became paid in 2019. That camping area is so well utilized. What's really cool is that it's utilized so well in the early season. It's like the spring when it's full, when all the fish are running, and it's really cool to see how many people come down into the community that early on. It's such a cool asset that we have down there. Anything about the signage? Do you feel that people are respecting the signage and the gates that you have to keep them off of the harbor facilities for fishing, or is that an ongoing issue, Matt?
Hey, I don't think you could put up enough signs.
Okay.
If you put no trespassing, that means good fishing in Latin. But
Do you see that as a liability issue for the city at all, or because you have the signage, is it people work at their own risk, or how is that?
I feel it's an industrial park, not a recreational park, and the city someday something's gonna happen, and I just don't like to see people in areas such as moss-covered riprap, or out on the sheet pile dikes, or like that, fishing at low tide when somebody could fall in the water. That I would rather the signage be put up to keep them more towards the campground.
Right.
And we try our best with signage and not be offensive or anything like that, but it's just, you could put up a lot of signs and they still, hey, what are you doing?
So as part of that security infrastructure, on the north side where the fence is right adjacent to the campground, there really should be a fence going down across that riprap and like potentially out into the, I've seen barriers like that
but they're
before.
still gonna go around it.
But if that was in conjunction with fencing that went around the entire industrial area, it might help.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Madam Chair?
Yeah. Harbor Master Regis.
That's all public area, it's all public. You can't shut them off from using those roads. They have to be around to get all the way down to the other beach to access state land, which is right on the other side of that far south road. So we cannot shut the public out.
No, and absolutely not. But I thought that your intention with putting the security infrastructure was to have to pave the route that goes from from Jellison and back to Olga, so that they access that land around the backside of rather than driving straight through.
Right, and that's why Jack put up those signs for their crew to go around. And some of the public is using it, but not all of it. But since the Public Works did just put in some nice D1 to get the road all nice, I think more people are using it.
Yeah, that is the nicest road in the boatyard now.
That's the same gravel we're gonna have to upgrade interior.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I guess just don't make it too nice so that people don't start using that. Okay, moving on to page 4 of the packet. Maintain separation between the camping and industrial uses. A chain link fence will be installed to separate the north dock from the campground, and that was installed in 2018. I guess that's what we were just talking about. Maintain a sign along Nash Road and central to SMIC area showing what lands are available for lease. I would just change that from a specific date to just say ongoing, because I know that you guys are on top of that, keeping that sign up to date. Maintain a fair market value baseline from which leases will be negotiated. Yeah.
So that's what we do with the assessment, the appraisals they do every 5 years.
Right.
Well,
I guess I just don't understand, if we're doing appraisals, I don't understand how this is different.
I think it's because we have a few pieces out there that's not appraised because nobody's on them.
Oh, okay.
So I think when that comes, we just use the square footage.
Oh, I see. So this is saying so this should just say for unleased land, because this is leases. I gotcha. So if you know the appraised value because it's been leased before, when you have a new leaseholder, that's what the rate is. But when you're leasing new pieces, you use this baseline square footage to to negotiate the
Yes.
lease? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Can we just say ongoing for unleased land, just so that that's clear?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Continue to encourage multiple users. All departments ongoing. I think that there's some other line items that that play into this. Again, with encouraging the usage of the campgrounds and maintaining good access to the beach on the other side. All right, evaluate utility rates to encourage more usage while ensuring a fair return to the public utility system. I think we talked about this already, that there's a rate study that's coming out that will help to ensure that that's happening. Does everyone agree that that the rate study would be sufficient to?
This does say electric, however, utility, does that imply water and sewer also?
I don't think that we're charging water and sewer
Okay.
to users at this time. Because there's not, I guess if they put in sewer facilities on the North Dock, then that would be the only sewer
That's-
facilities available.
Seems kind of like a duplicate then, doesn't it?
It does, because, well, I guess again, if we, I really don't
Yeah,
know. You know,
the formula.
this was talking about the method, so that one's talking about the method and this one's talking about the specific.
Yeah, the rate
Rates.
study would completely overrule anything. We're not gonna set utility rates based on SMIC, so.
Right, so let's just say rate study being conducted in 2020? Is the rate study actually happening already, or should we say 2021? I don't think we'll have results until 2021, so we can
Okay.
just say that.
2021.
Okay, so rate study being conducted in 2021. Continue to support the Seward Chamber of Commerce as the marketing arm of the city of Seward. So we have here that the marine services list needs updating. I would like to add here that in 2020, the Chamber of Commerce stood up the Seward Marine Front to specifically bring together the marine stakeholders, and I think they're doing a great job in that way of marketing specifically the marine industry.
Agreed.
Marine Front. And some exciting stuff has already come out of that. That's been a really great group effort. Postpone paving interior SMIC streets until site and utility developments are completed. I think that that's wise. Ensure that all lease sites include adequate area to comply with parking requirements set forth in the zoning code, and that lessees provide on-site parking for employees and customers. I think there's language in the leases that talk about that. Maintain signage and parking areas in support of the public docks. Signs have been installed at the North Dock for parking. Correct, Mr. Chase?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. There's a great parking area now, which is awesome. Before that was created, it was kind of a free-for-all for parking over there, but now there's that really nice, like,
What, a
bouldered
fisherman's
off.
dock there?
Yeah.
Fisherman's float, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great parking area. So signs have been installed by North Dock parking area. All right. Continue to work with the Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities to improve airport facilities and protect it from river flooding and erosion. Well, this one just stings a little bit.
Yeah. It's kind of a big one.
Vice Chair Jaffa, do you have any comments on this?
Well, I hate to dredge this back up. I think this is, I have not heard anything recently about what DOT's plan is, but I think we all know the history of it, and I'm not sure that this really should be a line item on our packet anymore. I have come to the opinion it's out of our hands. There's nothing we're going to be able to do with it. We don't have the political stroke to make any change from what DOT is going to do.
Did they break you, Bruce? I'm sorry, you sound so defeated.
Yeah, I guess so. I have other battles that aren't quite as negative as this one. But, yeah, quite frankly, we got steamrolled. So.
Well, I personally appreciate all the work that you put into this, and I guess I would say I don't see it as being a complete loss. We're not losing our airport completely, and there is runway could be expanded in the future. It just takes money. We don't have to give up on it completely.
That's Snyder, I agree. It's just, as somewhat of a fiscal conservative, it distresses me that our public agencies are willing to step over dollars to pick up pennies. And
Right.
The long-term improvement of the airport, which I believe will happen, is going to be a lot more expensive.
You're right.
And that's just the nature of the game, I guess. And you're right. It's not a completely lost cause. And with the activity, quite frankly, that JAG is showing with Navy ships and Coast Guard ships and others, we'll get another bite at the apple.
Yeah, and it would be interesting to have an update on where they're at with that project. Now that they've said they're moving forward, it'd be interesting to know what.
Madam Chair?
Oh yes, Mr. Regis.
Yeah, so I think that we received an email a while back that they had gone out to bid for construction. So, I think construction or engineering construction, I think. I'm not exactly sure, but I thought I seen an email a while back.
Okay. And I see in our notes here that in the 2019 federal legislative priorities, we had the money in there for the runway extension. Do you happen to, I believe that was in 2020, but I don't remember specifically. Do you happen to remember?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just,
So that's state money, so.
okay. So, but I think we were asking for, I think it went in the federal legislative priorities because we were hoping for additional FAA money for the extension. Is that maybe, am I thinking about that correctly?
So it's all the federal and state money together for that project. It's already allocated, from what I understand.
Okay. I thought this additional money, this was put in here when we had our interim city manager here, Mr. Bridges. He put that in the 2019 priorities because that's the number that he was given for what it would cost to increase the project size to make that the new runway a longer runway and extend it out into the bay. If I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah, I don't know where it's at with that, sorry.
Okay. Nope, no problem. We just, I don't want to put anything in there that we're not sure of, so we'll just leave it at that. We'll know more next year when we come around to this, hopefully. Include construction of an additional public restroom shower facility in the city's capital project plan. Again, I cannot remember off the top of my head if this is in the CIP already.
I believe it is.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll have to look at that. I don't remember what the dollar amount is that's in there for that. Ms. Chase, since that is your domain over there, do you have a site identified? Would you use the current building and remodel, or do you have ideas about where something like that might live out there?
It seems to be well located where it's at now. In order to enhance that facility, it's possible. I would say that it would be good if we just doubled up what we had there and added a shower to that facility if that comes around to be something. Because right now, as of today, when I was driving through there today, there was at least 20 or 30 people in that yard, busy as can be. And of course, they'll have this little, but we're also keeping our rent-a-cans over there later on this shoulder season. So, yeah, I think where we have it now would be good because we can hook it up to the plumbing that's already there as far as our
Right.
structure goes.
And you can afford to lose that space on the interior of your shop
On the
building?
north, well, not interior, but we would probably, you know where the back door is on the, towards the travel lift?
Yeah.
We could probably expand on that part of the building outside
Okay,
and double its size possibly, but we'd have access to the plumbing. And that's just inside point of view of how the structure's built already and to make it where we could get the best bang for our buck.
gotcha. I feel like, you know, with increased activity over there, that just becomes more and more, that would be such a nice upgrade to have over there. I think shower facilities could potentially be done by a leaseholder, but having a second permanent warm restroom would be nice.
Yeah.
Improve paving, fill, fencing, and stormwater drainage collection and treatment infrastructure as development occurs. 2 stormwater projects included in the 2019 city legislative priorities. One of those stormwater projects was actually for JAG, correct? That was in the shipyard, that was the shipyard stormwater.
They had their own,
Yeah,
water separation system over there for the work that they do on the boats over there.
And they got that grant.
I
They
believe
got
so.
it as a MARAD grant last year.
Yes.
So that's awesome. So that's being done. And then the one that's for the city boatyard is probably still, so so there's still a stormwater project that is outstanding, that we may see in our 2021 legislative priorities. I guess I don't know what that looks like, but I think it's a good idea. There's definitely stormwater runoff issues, as we know. That drainage actually works pretty well, but it goes right into Spring Creek, and there's a lot of pollutants around in the boatyard.
Yeah, well, part of the nature's facility.
That's why we do our water samples also every quarterly or monthly, stuff like that.
Right. So the stormwater project that you're talking about, is that like an oily water separator at the outfall to Spring Creek that would take the runoff from the boatyard and, okay. Is that,
Down there, yeah, we have.
so that's something that potentially if, I know this is your other call, but if the EVO's plan goes through to do the endowments to the individual communities, that could be, in addition to the washdown pad, that could be a really good, that would be a really good candidate for that funding. That, the oily water separator there at SMIC. Because that is a salmon stream, as I've recently learned.
Yeah, and there's several different places that could use it, and it would be great if there was a grant like that where we could actually have it professionally done.
Yeah,
But it's like I said, it's all about funding.
yeah. So I think we should just update this to say stormwater project for shiplift area funded in 2020. Water project.
Well, I do believe in some of the existing leases, if there's drainage on the property, that the leaseholder has to enhance that
Yes.
drainage.
Yeah. In 2020, and then we should say, so Norm, do you anticipate that is there still a line item in your priorities that you're forwarding to the city for stormwater collection at SMIC? Is that still kind of is that still on the top of the list? Or still on the list, I should say? He may be gone. Okay, so I would say additional stormwater infrastructure in city yard awaiting funding. and I know it was in our last packet, but we didn't get to have the meeting, but the idea for those EVOS funds being distributed as community endowments, I think is just a really cool idea that could make sure that Seward gets its, gets some really cool projects funded, like the washdown pad on the 50-ton side and potentially some things at SMIC too to assist protecting the watershed there. Moving on, evaluate each new development as to its impact on fire and police services. I think that, is there anything with the Coast Guard that they're requiring any improvements in infrastructure for firefighting or anything there? Or are they taking care of all of that themselves? Will it be internal to their lease?
That would be something that Norm would have to answer.
Okay. Because that's a lot of
What was the
people.
question?
Oh, I was just asking, we have this line item about evaluating each new development as to its impact on fire and police services. And I was thinking that having the Coast Guard vessel out there is going to be a big impact. They're probably going to want some firefighting capability. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I know they respond to their own fires, but we do have the ladder truck over there, and
How have security issues been at SMIC recently as far as reported thefts and fights and things of that nature? It seemed to me to be a little less, it seemed a little less crazy this year. Maybe because people were worried about other stuff.
It seems a little less hectic over there this year. We've eliminated a lot of stuff to clean things up, and people are starting to respect things a little bit more over there.
That is excellent.
Chair Snyder, the board member Jaffa has a question.
Yeah, Board Member Jaffa.
You know, shipyard fires are a hot topic, no pun intended. There's just been a couple big ones. And it just occurred to me that there is no fire water reservoir outside of Spring Creek. So you're only relying on hydrant pressure from the wells. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Yes, sir.
Might want to consider some sort of reservoir with the capability over there.
I would be interested in hearing from the fire department, since there was an incident, kind of like an after action, just if they felt that they were adequately prepared to. That was a hot battery fire that happened a couple months ago on a metal boat, and it would just be interesting. You know, this is talking about future development, but it would be interesting just to hear how they felt about the infrastructure as it currently exists, and if it was, I mean, they did a great job of getting the fire out, but maybe with having some recent experience there, they could have some good input on.
Chair Schneider,
Yes.
perhaps a water tower as opposed to a reservoir, just because it seems like we're real short on square footage.
Yeah, I don't know enough about firefighting to know really a lot. I had never even considered a reservoir or a tower. But again, I think that with having fought a blaze of that size, that the fire department would maybe know whether or not they think it's currently an issue. I don't.
Chair Snyder, this is Jeff.
Yeah.
I would like to get the fire department to visit us and talk about that. Reservoirs or standpipes or towers or whatever you want to call them, very common. I'm very familiar with them. And it's just a matter of having a lot of water available.
Right.
And as we build more and more at SMIC, metal boats, wood boats, or the facilities themselves, and I think it's something that we really haven't. I'd like to hear the fire department's opinion about it.
Yeah. Is that something?
Madam Chair, don't quote me on this, but the tank is really high up on the side of the hill there, and most of it's gravity fed to the hydrant.
Okay,
But if we do have an earthquake and something happens to take down the line, I understand, Chair Jack, his concern. I don't know whether we could put it over there, but, they were talking about putting a fire station, of course, down there by the prison, so, there's a possibility they can put a reservoir there.
yeah, I think that, especially, before we update this plan, there are quite a few things that talk about fire. We're also talking about the water system loop to upsize the cross feeder lines and provide additional hydrants. It would probably be good to have an agenda item maybe in 2021, because I know the rest of this year is very full, to meet with the fire department to talk about development at SMIC and just see what they what their professional opinions on it are. But I think that's a great thing to bring up. Again, I wish I knew more about that, but I don't. But can we go ahead and put that on? Maybe talk to the fire department and see what would work best for them, and ask if they can join us for a meeting to discuss.
We can't have any actionable items on a work session, but I did make a note for myself.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Chair Snyder, if I might.
Yeah, please.
I did, after Harbor Master Ray just made his mention, I did look on Google Earth. I do see the water tank that was put in there. That is in fact the reservoir, but the broader discussion is public safety, which includes fire safety, and we did talk about police safety, police services again, and I don't think that's ever really been resolved. But certainly it was an issue with the planning and zoning and the use for residential spaces, and we've talked around and round about that, but I'm not sure we've absolutely got that defined.
And you're talking about the public safety aspect of police services out at SMIC? Is that what you're referencing at the end there?
Yes, I include police services, including the troopers, the city, police, and the fire department.
Right. Yeah, it is. SMIC is such an interesting area because it's islanded, because it's it's on the other side of borough land. It's not attached to city land. I don't, I'm not there all the time, so I can't make any true statements about how often they're patrolling that area. I don't remember ever seeing police cars out there other than when there's an incident called in. But again, that does not mean that they're not out there. I just have not. It's not a heavy presence. Because it probably doesn't warrant that. But it would be interesting to maybe know what that schedule is, if that is something that they're patrolling every day. I know that this time of year especially, and in the spring, there's quite a lot of theft. The lights help a lot, though. The lights do help a lot. Those LED lights are amazing. Identify and reserve, I skipped one. Complete water system to loop all lines or upsize all cross feeder lines and provide additional fire hydrants as needed. I think that can lump in with our previous discussion that we can talk with the fire department about. Same with this next one, identify and reserve a site for a fire station to serve the 4th of July Valley area. I think that would also tie in really nicely with our conversations with them. And then include a separate fire station in the capital project plan to accommodate more and or larger equipment and supplies to support increased industrial development. Possibly include a joint small office for Seward Police. I would have to check. I don't actually know if that fire station is currently on the capital. Now I'm saying CIP and this says CPP. Are they two different things? Is there a CPP and a CIP? Do we know? All right.
I'm assuming the CPP would be the capital project plan.
No, right. But is there?
Madam Chair, I believe it is on the list.
There's a capital, oh, you're saying it is on the list, but is there a capital project plan as well as a capital improvement plan, or are those two different names for the same thing?
I believe it's the same thing. It's just on the, you have the state and the federal side of it.
Okay.
Where city side and state side. I know it's on the, and fire department's listed to have a satellite station on there, so, it's just a location I think they decided down there by the prison, but that's from what I understand. If you go more, when we have that meeting with the fire department.
Gotcha. All right, turning the page. We're now on page 5. Explore possible cooperative arrangements with Spring Creek Correctional Facility staff to provide initial fire or other public safety needs.
So, Madam Chair, I believe there's a plan with the city police department and the prison to work together. I'm not sure about the fire aspect of it, but I believe there is also, that they have to respond to a fire within the prison. So, I believe there's a plan for both fire and police, and I don't have that. That'd be something that they would have to answer to.
Gotcha. Okay.
The fire station is not on the CIP.
It's not. Okay, thank you for checking.
The harbor CIP or the city, or the general?
City.
All right, so
It
that
would be on the harbor CIP.
okay, so again, when we're talking with the fire department, we should address that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, improve the water and electrical systems in areas associated with the 315-ton travel lift to accommodate increased public use. And I guess areas associated with the travel lift, so does that mean all areas which the travel lift can drive to, all potential lease areas, or just for increased public
That would
use?
mean where it drives to, Madam Chair.
Anywhere it drives to,
That's why they have, they have the extra fire hydrants they were putting in, I know.
right? In areas associated to accommodate increased public use. I guess what would be the public use of the water and electrical systems? Like leaseholder use or the general public? I'm just wondering where those improvements would be made.
Well, I mean, water and electrical systems, that's, like we were just talking earlier about meter bases. We're trying to get more meter bases in there, trying to get more water in there, which we were just talking about a couple weeks ago, and it's all about funding. And then, of course, more water for extended bathrooms and stuff like that.
Right.
That all comes under public use, anything that's used in the city.
Yeah, so the next one on the list just says include in city capital planning the extension of electrical, sewer, and water throughout the industrial area.
Correction, Madam Chair, I know the electric department last year finished a loop. It goes around the entire thing, so there is an electrical loop now that goes around the entire SMIC basin. So it goes
nice.
around, past the fire training center down that road where JAG uses, and down back around. And so, the electrical's been done.
Nice. So electrical was looped around the industrial area in 2020?
I believe it was last year, 19.
In 2019? Okay.
Late, yeah. They did everything, then they just, and then they pulled wire later on, so.
Gotcha. Very cool.
That's in case, so for some reason something happens, with, one of the, lines coming in, they can loop around coming from the backside, like to JAG and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can feed it from a different area that were there for some reason is cut off. That was from what I was told.
Perfect.
So electrical was looped around the what in 2019? Sorry.
The industrial area. So support updating Seward City Code to facilitate utility extension development. And our note here says that Planning and Zoning held 2 work sessions and they determined assessment district already exists within the city. So basically, but this was just done, right? The assessment districts, that was just passed last year. So that is allowed in city code. So nothing has changed there. It's basically just saying they've looked and that is allowed, that they can, they do have assessment districts to facilitate utility extension development. Continue to place all electric utilities below ground. Great idea. Is how some of those boats are 50 feet tall. Require compliance with all rules and regulations of the Environmental Protection Agency and the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation. Yes, that is required by the leases. Maintain policies and procedures for monitoring and ensuring vessel storage, repair site cleanup. Also ongoing. Maintain and distribute use guidelines to lessees, operators, and users of the area for ship repair, including minor repairs, sandblasting, and painting. Those are given to each person that they have to sign them when they come into the yard, and then there's facility use agreements that each contractor has to have. So I think they do a good job of disseminating that information. Continue implementation and improvements of a program to control the separation, collection, recycling, and disposal of waste generated in the industrial center in accordance with established environmental policies and regulations and requirements of the KPB solid waste facility. And that kind of goes along with the next one.
Madam Chair, I have to go, so.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. Good luck on the EVOS call. Continue to improve used oil collection procedures and disposal facilities to meet the demands of user groups and ensure a clean environment. It was really nice that those signs were installed. They're in conspicuous places, so anyone that wants to dispose of oil out there just has to call, and they can dispose of their oil for free. Improve methods to monitor waste material disposal to control and reduce the costs associated with the collection of solid and liquid waste materials. Do you foresee cameras in the future, or do you think those would be useful?
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm Norman Regan, the City of Seward. I'm the Harbor Master, and we solicited an unsolicited proposal to you, which you should all have. And I was just going to take any questions if you had some. I know you're got a lot of things left to go, so fire away.
Norm, can you mute yourself from the PACAB meeting? Okay, well, we'll continue. I don't want to interrupt any questions that he gets. Okay, I'm already past that.
You're on the second to last one.
Thank you so much.
You're still coming
Yes, sir.
on.
So, a lot of these, when people, they wash their
PACAB
vessels, we
meeting
have
is
several
still on
different
volume.
areas. It goes back into Restrooms Bay through the ground and through sometimes the drainage after they wash their vessel. So we can combine it into one. We can keep the containment and reprocess the water so when it does go back into the bay, that it's clean and
He's talking to those EVOS people.
Yeah, and I don't think he can hear us. If he,
help
You might have just put
Oh.
this on now.
just clean things up faster, I guess.
Okay.
Maybe just hang up the call and then have Linda and Bruce call back in.
I just sent him a text.
okay, we'll just continue. If it happens again, we can try something else.
And let me just jump in and say that I have to leave at the stroke of 2.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, let's maintain a stormwater pollution prevention plan. That was updated in 2020. Every 5 years, they make us all redo them. Where possible, reduce scrap metal storage, trash, and other materials that may be considered offensive to the casual observer. That is required by code and will be, is continually
We
being
are doing
improved
our
upon.
best.
No, it is continually being improved upon.
And continually.
Yes, it looks great. Ensure that all businesses comply with city codes regarding the collection and disposal of trash. Also ongoing, and there is one more page. Back on page 7, last page of the packet. Review public signing to ensure that it is adequate to the needs of the public and the city. Ensure private signing meets Seward City Code. Maintain a sign along Nash Road identifying and welcoming visitors to the Seward Marine Industrial Center. This has been the signage along the highway. We may talk about that. Oh yeah, that's next. Maintain a sign denoting lands for lease with contact information. Again, that's redundant, but yes, they do that, and keep it updated. Support north and southbound directional signage to SMIC at the corner of the Seward Highway and Nash Road. I feel like we took this kind of to the limit with DOT, and they have been pushing back a lot. You can have signs for all sorts of things, but apparently an industrial center is there's a very strict code on what you can have signs on the highway for, and this doesn't fall into any of that because it's not technically a public use. So they could have signs saying, Spring Creek Campground because it's public use, but because the industrial center, they'd have to prove that they're public facilities. So they could have signs for, say, if there was a public dock where people could come and dock their boats.
Great fishing on the North Dock.
Yeah. So there's potentially a couple of ways around that, but it still wouldn't get us to the point. It wouldn't be able to say Seward Marine Industrial Center this way for some reason. The thing that makes no sense to me is it's a part of the city of Seward that you have to drive out of the city of Seward to get to. So the fact that you're not allowed to have signs saying, hey, this way to our city is ridiculous to me.
I have a question on that. With the fast response cutters, could there be a sign indicating that's where they are?
Oh, probably.
At the Seward?
That's a really good point.
Maybe we're
I'll
on
talk to
that.
Jason about that and maybe see if we can hit it from that angle. Because maybe they could say Coast Guard Station at the Seward Marine Industrial Center that way.
That'd be awesome.
4 foot by 8 foot.
Yeah, I like it.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I'm the cat, you're Steve. Does the city not have any property along those byways that they could put their own signs?
No, those right-of-ways are owned by DOT because it's a highway. So we have to abide by DOT's rules. We have that really nice sign coming into the area that's on city land saying that it's the Seward Marine Industrial Center, but it's the highway signage that it is very confusing for people who haven't been here before, knowing that you have to go all the way down to the end of Nash to get there. So I definitely don't think we're at the end of our work on that. It might just take a turnover in personnel, some fresh eyes on the situation. Recognize that current zoning codes could limit necessary and appropriate development. I think that this also goes in with the work session we're going to have with P&Z about that overlay district. I look forward to that. Support variance requests for height and setback requirements as approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. That also is happening, and those, I have never seen one not approved because anyone that wants to build a building tall enough for the travel lift has to have a variance for the height requirement. That's just the 35 feet is not tall enough for boats. Ensure that all structures, permanent or temporary, are constructed to adopted building and fire code standards. Also ongoing. All right, you guys, that was a lot to get through in 2 hours. We did it in just under 2. I think that we addressed everything from Tim from JAG's letter, and I want to thank him for that input because I do think that's very valuable input. That especially with the amount of bigger ships that are coming into that North Dock, having some upgraded facilities to support them would help to make actually performing work at that dock more feasible. Any parting thoughts? Thank you for both of you that joined us telephonically. Is there anything you'd like to add at the end here?
Chair Snyder, Board Member Jaffa, I think we did address Tim Janowski's issues and most of them, but the one that's still hanging out there is the elephant in the room, and that's where this SMIC is going to expand. And his letter had addressed, options of moving away from his core facility. I think we might all know what that means, but there is available land around the core facility that we need to look at. And if we gotta get creative, you know, we need to do it. I was just talking to somebody recently about Dale Lindsay and moving Spring Creek. You know, that was creative. We shouldn't make sure everything's on the table.
Yep, thank you, Bruce. I think that we're gonna have to dedicate several work sessions next year to actually updating this plan, because there have been so many changes and there's so many good things coming. I think there's a lot of good things that can happen out there, but I agree we have to keep our eye on the future and where that expansion can happen, and making sure that when opportunities for growth are there, that the city is ready to meet that demand when people want it. Board Member Smith, anything that you would like to add?
That's, there's a lot of changes here, so I would agree with you that, going through and refining this list and maybe hitting some of the things that seem redundant or have already been taken care of would be prudent, so. Good to see you, and thank you for all the work from the harbor. Amazing work.
Yeah, Mr. Chase, thank you very much for your time. I know you're a busy man.
Got another meeting at
Chair
2.
Snyder?
Board Member Paquette? Yep.
I just wanted to review procedurally now, so we can't take action at this meeting.
No, ma'am.
Next meeting's agenda has already been set. So all the things that we talked about wanting to get scheduled will all come back to us at the following meeting on the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, also, I believe that we can have something added to the agenda in the future just as a note, as you could always add something to an agenda. So in November we could do that, or I can talk with the fire department and see when would be the best timing for them, and I'll add it as an agenda item at that time.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, thank you all for your time. Have a great rest of your week. Adjourned.
At 1:53.